Hi there! My name is Leah and I am crossing the Americas by motorcycles with zero time constraints. It's been actually several years that I'm traveling full-time, and the question you might ask yourself right now is, how the fuck do I fund that? And it's quite easy. We have a game in France that's quite popular, it's called La Loterie, and I got lucky. No, just kidding. My parents are paying for everything. No. Okay, sorry. It's very weird to make jokes with no one around to react. Anyway. No, I'm just working to pay for my travels like everyone else. And in this video, I want to, first of all, tell you how I earn money on the roads, how I travel as well in a way that saves money, and how much I spend exactly in North America, because I am right now in Central America. That means I crossed Canada, the States, and Mexico, and I wrote down every single dollar I spent, and I'm gonna share it with you today. But before detailing my whole budget with you, I want to tell you a bit more about how I travel, because a budget is very personal. You can spend anywhere from like $0 to $1,000 a day, depending on how you travel, and I am exactly in between that. But for you to know if you can relate to my budget, I will give you a bit more details on the way I travel. And the first important information is that I am not traveling alone. I am traveling with my husband. That means we share costs. We do have 2 motorcycles, so we don't save on that. But we share costs on accommodation, for example, on groceries and stuff like that. The second thing is we do love camping. We do actually love wild camping when we can, and when we're in an area where it's possible and where the weather allows it. We free camp a lot, so we're paying for zero accommodation. We actually been hosted a lot as well. I mentioned it in several videos, but we're using a network called Bunker Biker, which is a network of people who wants to host for free travelers on motorcycle. And we use it a lot, especially in the States. So yeah, that saves us a lot of money. And bonus, we met a lot of very cool people. Also, we don't eat out very often. We love cooking, both of us, and also I have like some diet restriction. That means it's most of the time easier for me to cook than to eat out. So that saves a lot of money. That's perfect. Also, we don't do all the touristic activities. We actually don't do a lot of activities in general. When I visit somewhere, I love to walk, like hike, sometimes a museum, but not a lot of like paying activities, not a lot of must-dos and stuff. So yeah, we're quite cheap on that. So to sum up, we are quite on a budget, but not the lowest. I used to travel with like zero budget, hitchhike, do some couch surfing, etc., etc. Now we have a little bit more budget. Also, we need a little bit more comfort because we're traveling on the roads. I'll more details on that later. But that means half the week at least we have a paying accommodation with good Wi-Fi and electricity. So we are on a budget, but not completely broke. Let's dive straight into it. Sorry, but like I really sounded like an actual YouTuber. Where usually I just make like little vlogs in the middle of nowhere, and now I feel like I have a whole YouTube studio. But it's actually just my Airbnb room, and I close the window for you to have less wind noise. And I'm sweating. Anyway, let's start with Canada. We stayed in Canada approximately 3 months, and I spent, in average, 29.94 Canadian dollars per day, which is 21.76 US dollars, at least today. That's my average per day, and for me, I count my budget, and it's not the budget for our couple. The biggest expenses we have in Canada was the fuel. With no surprise, like fuel is super expensive, especially in the north, like Yukon, Northwest Territories. We paid so much for the fuel, and that was 848 Canadian dollars, which is $616 US. Knowing that we crossed Canada twice because we started from the south, we went all the way to the Arctic Ocean and then all the way down again. So that was quite a lot of kilometers. We have bikes that don't consume so much fuel, but yeah, fuel was very expensive. Then we have groceries. I'm gonna give now the prices in US dollars. That would be simpler. Groceries, that is 20% of our total budget, and it is $531 US. Then comes accommodation, 10% of our budget, which is $274 US. We could have done less. Accommodation, it was mostly when we were feeling a little bit lonely, because we wild camped a lot in Canada. So sometimes we wanted to go, for example, in Whitehorse in Yukon, there's a motorbike campground. So we went there to meet some people. We went also in the hostels and sometimes in paying campgrounds. But yeah, it was not necessary all the time. It was mostly because we're feeling lonely. It's very easy to wild camp in Canada. Then we have 10%, so $252 US for the motorbikes. A few tires, tire tube, a new chain as well. We changed both tires and a chain in the Yukon, so that was super expensive. And that was one tire? Yeah, I think one tire, two tire tubes, and one chain. And the $252 US is just half of it. We're sharing the cost of that. So that was close to $500 for that. Then we have 9% of our budget for restaurants. That's $233 US. 8% for some equipment, including we bought some intercom, a new mat, camping mats, a new pump for tires, thing that broke, basically. And we also bought a stove repair kit, a repair kit for a stove, for a camping stove, and that's $208. We have $149 of insurance. We have $98 of transport. I think that's mainly ferries. $98 as well for internet. $82 for alcohol. $9 for laundry. And $3.6 for activities, which is hot spring in Yukon. So yeah, I think that's quite a good average, but it was a bit higher until we spent 1 full month volunteering on the Sunshine Coast because we had some administrative issues. We had to wait before crossing the first border, and we found we volunteered for 1 full month, which means we had free accommodation and free food as well for a full month. So, and we didn't move a lot. So that lowered everything quite drastically. Okay, now the States. We stayed a little bit more than 2 months, and our average per day per person is $19.16 US. So here again, quite good. I'm actually quite surprised with these prices. The biggest expense in the US was the accommodation because it started to be very cold. So we use, as I said, bunker biker a lot. We camped as well a bit, but in a big part of the US, it was too cold to camp and too empty to be hosted. We went in motels a lot, and that is 23% of our whole budget, which is $414 US. Then comes the groceries, $335 US, which is 19%. Then the fuel, $277 US, 16% of our budget. Restaurants, $257, 15% of our budget. Vehicle, we bought, I think, new tires for both of us. That was $111. Coffees. Coffees is a big expense for me because I am a huge coffee nerd. And we didn't have this category in Canada because before starting the journey, I worked for a coffee roasters and I saved a lot of bags of coffee. Like every paycheck, I had a free bag of coffee, and I put them in the freezer. So I left with a huge stock of coffee. But in the States, I started buying coffee again, and I am picky, like super picky. So I usually buy specialty coffee directly at roasters, and that's my luxury. That's my luxury. Let's be clear with that. Anyway, that I spent in the US $92 for that, which is 5% of our budget. Then we have activities, $80. I think that's my pass for all the national park equipments. I bought some new gloves because I lost one of my gloves, and some oil, that's $57. Internet, $55. Some transport, $51. I think we have ferries in that, and maybe some like buses and stuff in big cities. We have the ESTA, so the thing foreigners need to pay to enter the state, that was $21, and laundry, like $5. In the States, we didn't volunteer, but we did some pet sitting for a bit over 2 weeks. So we paid our food, but we had free accommodation for at least 2 weeks, and we used a lot banker backer, as I already said. So it would have been way more expensive without all these people helping us out. Okay, and the last one, Mexico. In Mexico, we spent 340 pesos per day per person, which is $18. So there is not a huge difference with the States. It's actually quite crazy, because I think when life becomes a bit cheaper, you are less careful with your money, you spend a little bit more, you go out a bit more. So yeah, at the end, the budgets are quite similar. We stayed 5 months and a half in Mexico in total, and our biggest expenses were accommodation. Again, we spent the equivalent of $881, which is 28% of our whole budget. We started working a little bit more seriously in Mexico, so we had more accommodation needed. Less camping as well. I wasn't feeling safe everywhere to wild camp, and there's also a bit less option. So yeah, more accommodation. Groceries, $615, that's 20% of the budget. Restaurants are 11% of the budget. I didn't write the dollars for this one, I don't know why, but like 6,349 pesos. We ate a bit more in a restaurant, as I said, because it was more accessible, especially in big cities where we had vegan options. We went out quite a lot to enjoy some fresh tacos and stuff. It was actually very nice. I don't regret this 6,000 pesos at all. Transport, we paid $307. That is 10% of our budget. Is mostly the ferry from Baja California to the mainland, and probably some buses and stuff in big city again, but yeah, that's mostly it. Then we have $257 in fuel, 8% of our budget. It starts to be way cheaper. It's very nice. We also bought a new chain and new tires in Mexico, which is $168 for 2 tires and 1 chain. So not bad. Again, every time it's half of it. We're sharing this expensive with my husband. I spent $116 in coffee. We spent $52 in activities. There was like 1 yoga class, a tequila tour in Guadalajara, and a lot of museums, especially in Mexico City. We spent 49% in alcohol, 45% in internet. Then we have like 18 in gift, 15 in laundry, and 50 pesos in equipment. I don't even remember what it was. Whatever. So that were our expenses. And now I want to share with you a little bit how I earn money on the road while traveling and how I save for the trip. Because I have to admit that this whole lifestyle is quite particular and it might not be intuitive for everyone. So I left France 6 years ago, and I think I worked most of the time during this period First of all, as a freelancer, because I studied and worked for 10 years in communication. So I left with a freelancer status that I still have actually. And I was working on some project, building some website, doing some graphic design and stuff like that. Very handy while traveling, but I got tired of it because it was a lot of time alone, a lot of time on my laptop. So I decided to stop. And I started working in the country where I was traveling, thanks to a visa called Working Holiday Visa, which is an open work visa for people under 30 or 35 years old, depending on the countries. It's actually agreements in between several countries. I'm quite lucky with that because France has a lot of agreements like that, so I have a lot of options. And I worked like that for 3 years in New Zealand. The visa is 1 year long, but COVID happened. It's been extended a few times, so it was great for me. I worked in farms, I worked in cafes, in markets, in bars and stuff like that. And most of the time what I do is I work a lot. I have like several jobs in the same time for a few months, and then I stop working. I go for a road trip or for like trekking for a few months and stuff like that. So that is how I do. Like very, very intense work periods and then completely free travel periods. And I did the same in Canada because before starting this whole journey, we spent a year and a half working with a working holiday visa. There I work in a cafe. So it's not exactly the best paying job, but here I really wanted to learn more about specialty coffee and roasting. So that's why I chose that. And to save up, we also do a lot of things, like we reduce as much as possible our expenses while living somewhere, because our absolute priority always is the trip, the travel. So we have that one goal in mind. We need to save up. So for example, in Canada, we lived for more than a year in a hostel. And even in this hostel, we were saving quite a lot because my husband, Quentin, was volunteering there, so not paying any rent. And we were living in a van outside of the hostel. We save on every single thing we could save. For example, I love doing yoga. I love doing yoga in studios, but instead of having a membership, I volunteer there for a few hours a week. Like this, I could just have a free membership and stuff like that. I had free coffee. That was great. Yeah, and we didn't go out a lot. We cooked a lot. We tried to not drink too much alcohol, even though from time to time a beer, some wine is nice. I don't know if you heard that. There was a gecko. And all this year and a half of working in Canada, working and saving, allowed me to save personally 9,000 Canadian dollars. So I think it's around 6,000 US dollars, which is more or less 6 months of traveling, which is not enough, knowing that we're traveling for more than a year now. So after 6 months, I had to find a solution to earn money on the road. I earn a little bit of money with YouTube, but honestly, this is nothing. I think since the beginning of my channel, I earn, like, counting both YouTube and what I earn on Patreon, maybe 500 US dollars in total, knowing that the channel exists for more than a year now. So this is not enough. I spend way more in equipment and subscription to have music and stuff like that. So if you want to be reached on the YouTube, but it's not working. So I started to teach French online. This is actually my main income nowadays. And that's what Quentin is doing as well, is teaching Dutch, because he's Belgian. So his native language is Flemish, and he's teaching them online for longer than me. And he convinced me to do the same with French. So I'm using a website where I am just started as a community teacher, which is just someone to speak with. So some people who already know a little bit of French who want to practice, and I'm here for that. But I actually became professional because I gained some experience and now working also for a school called l'Alliance Française, which is the main French academy worldwide. And I'm working online for the Alliance Française of Baltimore, and still on this platform. So this is my main only income. It is not much, but it's enough to cover our expenses. As I think, in average, I earn around $1,000 a month, counting both YouTube, Patreon, and the French teaching, both for the school and on the platform. Yeah, I think that's the high average. After taxes, the average might be more $800, I think. So in France, I would definitely be considered poor, but here, traveling the way we travel is definitely enough. It's enough to cover all our expenses, but also to save up a little bit, and from time to time pay for new equipment or I don't know, stuff like that. So yeah, we're not getting rich from that. We're just like covering our expenses, but this is definitely enough for us, and we're happy that way. The main question is, where is your priority? And in my case, the priority is really traveling and having experiences. That's what is the most important in my life. So I organize my whole life around that. I don't want to be rich. I don't care. I don't want to work enough to be rich. I don't want to have a career. I don't want to own a lot of things. Like a big house doesn't make me dream. My only priority in life is to have fun, to have pleasure, to discover, to be slow. My main luxury is definitely having time, and using it like that is all I want in life. So yeah, I think I taught you everything. You know now how I earn my money, how I spend it in details, so you know everything. And if I forgot to mention everything, if you still have any questions, please ask them in the comments. I have no problems talking about money. I can be very transparent about it. So yeah, don't feel shy on that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video, and very soon for season 2, because this journey is continuing. We are crossing Central America and South America in the next videos, and I am very excited to share that with you. So thank you to be here to watch this video. Sorry, it's very hot. I'm like extremely tired from the heat. Anyway, cheers guys.